And a lot of people I don't think are educated in that.
Right.
Are you seeing a lot of that kind of a movement in the community in Nashville and Middle Tennessee that, where am I going to go? Because it'll be a lateral move. And if anything, I might get a nicer house, but, for how much more a month? You know what I mean?
Well, here's the thing is our area is always going to appreciate a little bit faster than others just because there's so much moving here.
Yeah,
right.
True.
And so we're in a really good spot. We're not, so if you do decide to move, you're going to get that appreciation that other parts of the country are not. So that's a big thing. But you're also, if you stay put, you're going to continue to get the appreciation. But how do we maximize that? So it is educational. So when you start talking to people and they want to stay put, but when you start telling them, hey, well, let's make your money work for you in this kind of way, don't go spend it on a car. Yeah. Go spend it on a rental, and then let that rental income pay for your car.
From the business capital of the world, the Big Apple, New York, Middle Tennessee, it says here.
Yeah.
Sounds riveting. This is the Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast, a podcast about Middle Tennessee business owners and professionals. Mostly.
That's right. Yes, thank you, Mr. Matt Wilson, for the big shout out and the voice. You can check his biz podcast out. It's the Mostly Marketing Podcast with Matt Wilson on all your favorite platforms of Podcastopia. This is a podcast where we talk to Middle Tennessee business owners, professionals, entrepreneurs about all sorts of things, mostly business, but they kind of meander. They're real conversations. We'll go in and out of topics, all sorts of stuff. Tell your friends about us. This is a video and audio podcast. You can check us out at MMTBP.com. That's MMTBP.com. Truncated down from Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast.com. You can plug that in too, but it's a little bit wordy. I am your host, Jim McCarthy, with JimMcCarthyVoiceovers.com, and it's your show.co, where we produce fine podcasts like this one. And today, if you're in the business, we talk a lot to commoditized businesses, realtors, insurance agents. We had Ashley Pack on a few weeks ago where we were talking about payroll services, credit card processing, a lot of, how do you make them sexier is the big question, and decommoditize an industry and what you're selling. And typically the answer lies in personal branding. And my guest here has done an amazing job with that. His name is Mr. Jon Sexton. Thanks for being here, pal.
Absolutely, Jim. Thanks for having me, man.
You're a personal branding juggernaut. You came to town to be a rocker, a drummer.
That's right.
I'd like to get into that as well, because I too am a drummer.
I know. Let's talk about it.
Don't hold that against me. So where did you come from originally?
So I moved out here in '96 from Visalia, California, Central California. So after I graduated from Fresno State, which is the Harvard of Central California, by the way.
Cool.
I was in a band, and we were it was a country pop band before country pop was a thing.
Right.
And we had opened up for a lot of great artists. I mean, Toby Keith, Patti Loveless, Pam Tillis, a ton, and had a lot of success on the West Coast. Even had a song on the radio. But when time came to where the band broke up, I just graduated college, and I thought, all my connections are in Nashville.
Yeah,
I'm coming out here, and that's kind of how it all started. But when I moved out here, I decided I'm not going to be a starving artist. I was a college athlete. I was able to, and I had a personal training certification. So I said, I'm going to start my own quote unquote personal training business.
Yeah. And
grew a waiting list within 8 months, and then was able to develop a team so I could really focus on my music and be out of town, make money while I'm at home, while I'm on the road pursuing. So that worked out. Pretty well.
It's not a common thing for a musician to have that kind of mindset that I need to create something that I can walk away from and have it operate by itself. You know,
right.
That's a dream of a lot of business owners, but you had that kind of mindset early on. How long did it take with a fitness training program? I guess you just this is the way I want you to do it. Here's my team. Go off you go. How long did it take to get there?
Well, faster than I thought.
Yeah.
So like I said, I waiting list within 8 months. Yeah. And then from there, I was able to bring on team members. So basically to either cover for me, for my clients while I'm gone, or we created a scenario where they'd come in and I'd be able to provide them clientele. So basically gave them leads.
Right.
And in turn, we shared we had a split on each session.
Right. Mm-hmm. And you kept on pursuing the music at that point too.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. And continue to grow my personal training business. We had one of the largest ones in West Nashville by the time. And in 2003, this was in 96. So from 96 to 2003, that's when music kind of came to when I realized, okay, I've had enough.
Right.
I had opportunity to get into club ownership based on the business I had built. I was able to create I was able to actually negotiate myself to have some equity on the health club that wanted me to come in and run their personal training. So,
right.
And that's where it all kind of started. So my entrepreneurship kind of started early as a young adult. And then I will tell you that pursuing music itself is really where I learned how to really be an entrepreneur.
You have to.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You know what it's like. And, as a drummer, right, you're probably the most logical one in the band. Everyone else is kind of, they're probably a little bit more eccentric, but I think we're a little more grounded. So I took on the role of booking gigs and reaching out to record labels and sort of like the manager until we got one.
Yeah. You're the salesman.
Exactly. Right. I was a salesman.
Yeah.
And what I did realize is that, first of all, let me back up a little bit. When I was in California playing country pop, then I moved out here, I joined a rock and roll band. I did everything backwards. Right. So playing rock and roll in Nashville there wasn't a lot of rock clubs, but I figured out how to get us into places like the Exit Inn and how to play, because everybody was giving at the time either CDs or tapes and saying, hey, listen how great we are. Can we open up for so-and-so when they come in town?
Right.
My thing was, we sound really good. However, our people drink.
Right.
And that's when I realized they just want to make money.
They speak in their language.
And so then once we got the gig, I'm calling everybody, you got to drink.
You're speaking CFO, club financial officer. Yeah.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So from there, I learned how to deal with rejection, how to spin it into a positive thing. And, because in music, either trying to book gigs or trying to get record deals, which we ended up getting, by the way.
Yeah.
It was, you got beat up a little bit.
It's funny because, everyone, even when I played in the 90s and stuff, that was the goal, the record deal. Mm-hmm. And it's like, sometimes that could be the worst thing that ever happens to you. Because they have no idea, just a record deal, I don't care. And it's so one-sided.
Oh,
I don't care, I'll sign it.
It is, 100%.
And the record companies know that.
Mm-hmm.
They're just excited to have a record deal. They think they're going to be rock stars now.
Exactly. And that, and we fell into that trap for a moment. But honestly, it was sort of looking back, realizing it was really a blessing, because it took 5 years to get a deal.
Yeah.
We lost it in 3 months.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And it was with a big label. It was with Interscope.
Yeah.
And that, they had Eminem, they had U2, they had lots of things going on at that time.
I had guys because I came up in radio starting in Connecticut, and a buddy of mine, because I played in the band circuit in that area, and knew a lot of the guys, and one of the guys had a lucky break with a band called Pound. And they were kind of there were a lot of Me Too sounding bands, not Harvey Weinstein Me Too, but Me Too branding, hey, we're just like them, Me Too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they sounded like a Matchbox 20.
Oh, sure.
Matchstick 20. Bands like that.
Sure.
Very pop rock. Mm-hmm. They had the look, the frosted tips, all that stuff. And it's funny because my guy, who I knew, was just a still is phenomenal bass player.
Yeah.
I was in a cover band with him, and he used to do a slap at the bass, and he was amazing. So I was so into funk at that time, and he and I would just go back and he would just be like, man. Oh, we had such a good time.
That's great.
But we played mid-90s covers. Because if you remember the music back then, it was all over the flipping map.
It was.
Right?
And, you go back and you listen to even bands like Tears for Fears.
Yeah.
You don't realize the musicianship that is involved with all that. You go listen to the record, Showing Seeds of Love.
Yeah.
I just recently picked it back up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot all of the incredible, not just the musicianship, the songwriting, how unique it was. That whole era is really it wasn't straightforward. It was, I mean, it takes some, it kind of mess with your mind a little bit.
The record companies and the music machine at the time was just throwing anything against the wall to see what would stick.
Yep.
Because we went from the late 80s with all the hair bands, and hip hop was picking up, right? And then overnight, the hair bands went, bye-bye, we're done.
Right.
And literally,
as soon as Nirvana came about,
grunge took over like a flash flood.
Yep. And I will tell you, Pearl Jam 10 is probably one of my favorite records of all time from top to bottom. Oh, it's so good.
It's their only good album, in my opinion.
I think their first three were good, but I love that. But I really was a huge Soundgarden fan.
They were great too.
Oh, yeah.
Because they had some pretty intense musicianship going on there.
Oh, a lot of
Matt
times.
Cameron. Oh, gosh.
A lot of time signatures and all that, And Matt Cameron is also, now he's the drummer for Pearl Jam. Did you know that? Yeah, it's crazy.
I did. He's been there for probably 2 decades now.
Probably so.
Yeah. But I mean, they're the ones who certainly lasted. Dave Grohl obviously has made out pretty well.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that, the drummer from one of the biggest rock bands in history forms another rock band and becomes one of the biggest rock bands in history.
Exactly. I mean, that guy is a rock and roll god.
Juggernaut. Who were your flavors growing up and when you started playing?
Oh, boy. Well, so my dad was a professional jazz musician in his early life. And then so I listened to a lot of old standard jazz. And I played my first gig with him when I was 14.
Nice.
And so listening to all of that kind of stuff was really great. But I became a big prog rock fan, a big Rush fan.
Nice.
So Neil Peart is my guy.
Yeah.
He's hands down my guy. And till this day, I mean, he's my number one. He's not everybody's number one, but he's my number one.
He was so creative with the parts he would come up with.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff, a lot of different patterns of fills and stuff like that. Of course, you have the Tom Sawyers being the standards.
Yeah.
And, even beyond that, everyone pretty much knows Tom Sawyer because of all the pop culture phenomenon that was built around it, especially with I Love You, Man, you know?
Yeah.
And, those guys and Tom Sawyer and Paul Rudd riffing on that and stuff. It was freaking great. But I mean, even going beyond that, you have Subdivisions, great tune.
I mean, there's a lot of like hidden tracks that I really love that are, I think it's Permanent Waves. There's Kid Gloves is a song on there. I love it a lot. There's so many things that many people haven't heard. It's such an incredible band.
You ever go back and try to play that music?
Oh, yeah. I sure do. And
I have to build the physicality back up.
It's tough. You have to slow it down.
Yeah. Like Tom Sawyer doing the 16ths on one hand is just... It's like every time I riff and I'll woodshed, I've got my kid upstairs. And it's like, I just want to play straightforward rock. And Rush will come on because it's like, hey, it's Van Halen radio or whatever. And it's always like Rush gets inserted and they're like, I have to skip it. I'm just not doing it. I'm not doing it. I enjoy it.
Sure.
But I'm shaking off the rust.
It's definitely, it definitely beats up on your ego for sure.
Oh gosh. Yeah. That's not even an ego thing for me. It's just like, I just realized what I'm good at.
Yeah. Fair enough.
My jam lately has been Huey Lewis and that's not hard. That's not easy music to play either.
Wow. I've never played along with it.
It's really, there's some tasteful fills that Bill did in there.
Okay. Okay.
Even their later stuff like Small World and Perfect World, there's a lot of really cool, funky grooves in there.
Huh.
Yeah. A lot of good stuff.
Wouldn't have thought that.
But Van Halen was my biggest inspiration getting into it.
Yeah.
You listen to he is so dang underrated, man.
Oh, no doubt.
All the friggin' the stuff. You listen to the last song on, it was on the second to last song, Girl Gone Bad on 1984. It'll knock your socks off.
Yeah.
From a drummer's perspective.
Yeah. He's great.
Yeah.
No doubt.
But I will admit that once I was introduced, I went from Van Halen to Rush, my playing ability did go up. So, because all of a sudden it's like, oh.
Yeah, and so I actually learned how to play Rush probably more my sophomore year. Hold Your Fire was the first record that I really got into, which was, a little bit more, they had more keyboards and stuff like that. But I do love that record. That's, like I have in my drum room, because I have a drum room at home, I have a bunch of records that are influential to me. And that's the Rush one I chose to put up there because it's the first one I really got into. Yeah. But I had this little job working at a neighborhood at the gate where people would just drive by and open the gate. They just have to prove that they live there and just push a button. And I would bring my ghetto blaster with my tapes and I would air drum and I would work on air drumming. And then afterwards I go home and then work on those parts on the kit.
For me, it was with a school bus.
Exactly.
Going through the pattern of big money.
Oh, yes.
The intro to it. Because it's like, okay, what's he doing there? He's hitting the splash cymbal, and all of a sudden he's going on the toms and the cowbells. And
yeah.
Oh, my gosh. That was a fun song to play, though.
No doubt. That record's really great, too.
Power Windows is
really awesome. That tour was really cool.
Did you see them on that tour?
I saw them on the Presto tour. That's the first one I saw.
I saw them on the Roll the Bones tour.
I saw that, too.
Not the Presto. So Roll the Bones was the first time.
Was Roll the Bones was before Presto. I saw Roll the Bones as well, and then Presto.
Well, Presto was in the late 80s. That was, I was in middle school when that came out.
Okay, I'm older than you. So,
well, when did you graduate high school?
90.
Yeah, you are. Okay. Hey, kudos to you. I thought you were much younger than me.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. But anyway, either Roll the Bones and Presto, I saw them. And then they came out to Nashville. Oh, I don't know how long ago that was, but it was the Clockwork tour.
Yeah. Yep.
I saw them there too. And, and I had kind of fallen away from it because I gotten into a lot of different type of rock. But then the moment that they got on stage, and the first song they played was Tom Sawyer. They opened up with it.
Really?
Like, what?
Yeah.
And I was a little bit like where I was in grabbing popcorn, and I'm like, what? And I just sprinted to my seat.
Yeah.
Just probably spilled all my popcorn to get there.
Was that the last tour that they did where they did the Neil had the two kits?
He had the two kits where he turned around.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we'll go sit on his small electronic one. Is that what you mean?
Well, he always had the electronic one, but he also had his old school double bass kit.
Yeah,
that he brought out in the last tour.
No, I didn't see the last tour.
Yeah.
I know that was a real special tour.
It was.
And I just you didn't realize, I mean, you had heard that it was going to be the last show, like the one in LA, I think it was.
2015.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And then did you see that documentary they did?
They're basically documenting the last tour, right? Yeah, and it's like Neil's just all encumbered. He couldn't care less about the show. He's all encumbered about the route he's going to take on his motorcycle to get to the next gig. So he's got paper maps the size of this room sprawled out on their green room floor.
Yes.
He's like, I think I'll go down this road. This road looks like it doesn't go anywhere. I'll go down that road, and it looks like it's. He likes the dotted roads that are not established.
Yeah.
Or he did,
Yeah.
But and then he complained about getting some sort of foot fungus. Remember that part of it?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. And, I went, so they released that. I think it was only in the theaters for maybe a week or a couple of days or something like that. So I called my buddy who, he was the bass player in the band that was in California. We were called Ruckus. And everybody in the band was 10 years older than me, except for the bass player. He was younger. Yeah. He's small town, there weren't many great bass players. Well, this kid was great at 16 years old. So we brought him in the band. Anyway, so he's in town. Lives here now, and he's now the bass player for the Zac Brown Band. Shows you how good he is.
Wow, really?
Yeah. So he's one of my dearest friends. So we went to go see that together because I was giving him, when he would come over, my dad would give him jazz records to listen to. I would give him Rush to listen to.
Oh, nice.
So
he got it from both ends.
He did. Yeah. He did. So anyway, so we went to that together, and it was really fun because Rush was a special thing to us because growing up, that's what we listened to and would jam at my house and play it.
Yeah. Yeah. I never really got into playing it with other bands. I mean, I played in a lot of cover bands and stuff like that, but the part of that documentary that gets me and is when Geddy, at the end of the night, typically at a Rush show, Geddy and Alex would take the bows and Neil would just buzz off to the back.
Yeah.
He actually came out front and took the bow with them.
Oh,
because they're even Alex and Geddy were like, wow, okay, there you are. They didn't realize he was going to do that.
Right.
But what I could appreciate about, because they had Beyond the Lighted Stage documentary that came out in 2010 or 2011. And I was in radio at the time here in Nashville. And my boss had talked about watching it. I said, yeah, I got to get around to watching it. And, Courtney's not such a big Rush fan. He says, watch it together and see what happens. And I went to my wife and I said, hey, let's just check it out. She's like, oh, if you want to, we'll check it out. Okay. We watched it. And she goes, it doesn't make me a fan. I'm still kind of iffy about their music. It doesn't really jive with me, but man, do I appreciate them.
Yeah.
Because I didn't realize it was just three guys. And that Geddy did all that. You know, playing vamps with his feet and the keys and the bass and singing. And,
I know.
Alex, you got to step it up.
Have you ever seen, and poor Alex. So have you ever seen those reaction to Rush songs?
I haven't seen the Rush song ones, but I know what you're talking about, the type of videos.
So it's on YouTube. And gosh, there's a guy, I think he calls himself, I don't know, Metal Shack or something.
Yeah.
It is, and he watches and listens to Spirit of Radio.
Yeah.
It is the funniest thing you'll ever see. It is, I mean, he is just blown, because, you know, he's wanting to groove.
Yeah.
You know, and he can't find the groove.
No.
He's like, what? How? And it's like, he's like, there's too many songs, like too many parts.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, he gets into, and it sounds like the song's going to end, then it takes off, and then it goes into like a reggae feel.
Yeah.
And he's just tripping out. Yeah. So you got to watch that. I will send you the link.
Beautiful.
I will send you the link.
I'll have to check that out.
You will die laughing.
It's funny because, did you get into Dream Theater at all when they came out and were big?
A little bit. It was a little bit too perfect.
They're a math band.
Yeah, no doubt.
They intentionally try to screw you up.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. And the musicianship in that is incredible.
It is.
Totally respect it. But I think I bought one record at that time, but I just I couldn't get into the whole thing.
Yeah. That was they kind of redefined the level. I mean, Portnoy was a huge Peart fan.
Yep.
And there is a video online where Portnoy's behind the drums and he's sitting in front of Weckl.
Oh gosh.
Peart. And like two other, Terry Bozzio and one other guy. I can't remember who was there, but 4 behemoths. And it's like, okay, Mike, what you got? He's like,
my gosh,
I'm a little intimidated here. Hey, you should be.
Yeah.
And they're just watching them.
Yeah, I know. Weckl's another thing. It's a whole other animal on that one.
What's his name from Styx? Todd Suckerman.
Yeah.
Have you seen him?
Well, yeah.
Oh my
gosh. I know.
Beast.
I know. And I didn't realize he was such a beast.
Left hand from hell. Unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And the other guy, Rich Redmond and I do a podcast together, the Rich Redmond Show.
Okay.
And we have all these guys on, and it's a lot of fun to talk to them.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet it is.
We had even the drummer for Zach Brown on.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
He's an amazing player too.
Oh, that whole band is unbelievable.
They're like the Dream Theater of country music.
They are. They really are. You know, they and it's funny because you go to the show and they do a lot of covers, but they're not easy covers. They'll do Queen and and then they'll do some, just random stuff that you just weren't expecting at a country concert. Mm-hmm. So,
you put any drumming videos up on your Instagram or anything like that? So
recently, I've got a TV show, as you mentioned, called Selling Nashville, and my last episode, I did it at the Southern Ground Studio in Nashville, which is Zach Brown's studio. Yeah. And my buddy Matt Mangano, who's the bass player we talked about, he toured us through the studio, gave us the history of it, and at the end we jammed together. And it was so much fun. And so I do have on my Instagram, there's a whole piece where he and I are jamming together.
Right.
Yeah. It's great.
Now, do you have the dream drum cave where you put all your heroes' drum sets, like replicas? That's what I would love to do.
I only have my own. I have 2. I have an acoustic kit on one side of the room, my electronic kit on the other side, and then my little guy who's 6.5. By the way, I have brainwashed him to be a Rush fan.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. He knows who the best drummer is. Right. And so I've set the acoustic kit up for him, not the acoustic kit, the electronic kit up for him. And so he wants to start taking lessons, which I'm going to let somebody else teach him for a while, and then I'll come in a little bit later.
Just teaching him the foundations, fundamentals, things of that nature.
Exactly.
My son was like that. He liked playing with me for a minute, and then he like everything. It's funny, if you go back a couple episodes in this podcast, I talked to my brother. I had my brother on. Fun. He's musical. He's been playing the keys since he's 3 or 4 years old. Okay. In some form or another. And a lot of misperceptions I had about him were revealed in that episode. Like, holy crap. I always thought his identity was tied to the piano because he was always so good at it. Uh-huh. He's like, you have no idea how much I had to work at getting good at it. It didn't come natural. Wow. And I'm going, really? I said, because drumming came natural to me. He's like, yeah, that's something I was always kind of envious of you. Wow. Really? I had no idea. Huh. But with my son, it is like that. Fish to freaking water. And the most frustrating thing, and I hope this doesn't happen to you, is that, oh, you think I'm good at this? Yeah, you're amazing at this. You need to keep, okay, I'm going to stop. Oh. You know? And then he wanted to play piano. We got him a piano for Christmas a couple of years ago. Within an hour, he's playing like somebody's been playing for 3 to 6 months.
No way.
Yeah.
Just gets it. He just gets
it. And it's like, buddy, you're amazing at this. You think so? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to stop.
Oh, gosh.
Why? Because you want me to? No. What are you doing?
Yeah.
You know?
So do you play any other instruments other than drums?
No, I mean, guitar, barely. You know, I've tried. I've dabbled with it. I would very much like part of the decorations in the room and stuff in my office, even forthcoming. I'm a huge fan of Ed Van Halen.
Oh, gotcha.
And I love it because his instrument was like a part of his body.
No doubt.
You know what I mean? He could pick it up and make it do things.
No
that you're
doubt.
like, oh my gosh. So I've always wanted like a Frankenstrat model just to hang on the wall, even though I can't play a lick. I could play like the beginning to Roundabout.
Okay.
Ding, bling, and that's it. And I get the harmonics out of it, you know.
That's awesome.
But yeah,
that's awesome.
How about you?
Yeah, so I used to write songs for film and television as well. And so I play piano and I play guitar. Now, everything's by ear. Now, I've been schooled. I used to take lessons, drum lessons from a guy named, Greg Field, who was Frank Sinatra's drummer.
Okay.
He's had many, but he was one of them. Yeah. And he was the head of the USC, Southern California, their jazz department. So I had an audition there trying to get a scholarship. And that's back then you would throw in a tape and they would listen to it. And if you made it, you'd have a live audition. I got to that state. I didn't get the scholarship, but developed a nice rapport with him. So I would drive 3.5 hours to take a 2-hour lesson and then come back home.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but it was worth it.
Yeah.
You know? I can read rhythms, but I can't read notes.
Right.
So, but piano, so I have a baby grand at home. I can dink around in a handful of keys and sound really good.
Yeah.
And then guitar, I can just, I can strum decent enough, but don't ask me to play lead. I'm not playing live on either one of those two instruments. It's not my thing. I'm not going to play in a band in either one.
Yeah.
I'll play drums in the band, but I can write all day long on those.
Well, it's funny. One of the guys we interviewed on Rich's show, Charlie Benante from Anthrax.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was a huge influence on my playing when I was younger. So Rich kind of, I think, indulged me because I'm like, dude, let's try and get Benante on. And Rich is like, he's not a metal guy, So I kind of led most of that episode, but it was a great episode. I think we did an 1.5 hours with him. But he actually writes a lot of their songs.
Wow.
He's a guitarist as well.
Interesting.
Like to your point earlier, that a lot of drummers are like octopuses.
So, yeah. And here's what's kind of fun. We talk about Dave Grohl. I was in Maui and I'm going to say it was early 2000s. And I was just getting ice cream and there were like 4 people in the shop.
Yeah.
And he was one of them. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I go, hey man, I'm a big fan. He's like, yeah, thanks. I said, I'm a drummer and I write songs too. Then all of a sudden he was like, oh, we make the best writers. And so I got my picture with him. We got ice cream. It's really cool. It looks like we're hanging out together. But he was very pleasant. But once I said that, it changed. And funny enough is I wrote a song that was on there's a movie called The Banger Sisters, early 2000s, Goldie Hawn, Susan Sarandon. And I wrote a song and played drums on it on that soundtrack, and the Foo Fighters had a song on that as well.
Really?
Afterwards, but it was funny because the song that we wrote was very Foo Fighter influenced.
Really?
So the main guitar riff is what I came up with on that song,
like a charging type of anthemic type of approach.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. I mean, you've done a lot in your life. You've accomplished. Were those things just kind of happen naturally? Did you intend them to happen, do you think? I mean, starting with the band and having an understanding of entrepreneurship and creating a business that kind of runs itself so you can fuel other parts of your life you want to pursue. All these things, did they fall into place naturally, or did you have like a master plan?
I definitely did not have a master plan. Everything kind of sort of pivoted in a way that it did. But they were all always tied together, and I could tell you exactly kind of where that bridge was because, with music, as I said, I had already had my personal training certification, so when that was an easy transition to get full time into fitness. Yeah. Now I've always done multiple things. I've never been one that just sits and does one thing. I can't do that.
Right.
And then so when I got into fitness, and then and our club, I mean, we've done very well. it's called Boost Fit Club. I co-founded it, and it's been Nashville's best health club like 12 years in a row.
Nice.
But it started off in a strip center, and then grew it into where it's in 85,000 square feet in kind of the Westmead, Belmead area, and which is and for those that are listening that don't know the area, it's a kind of a prominent part of town. And so, but we had 11 acres, and in that 11 acres, the back 6 used to be clay courts. So this was a thriving tennis club when I moved here. And ironically, it was the first health club that I had a job in. Then I came back around in 2012. I found some investors to help me, because in 2008 is when I founded the brand. And then 2012 is when I found investors to help me take over this place. It's 85,000 square feet. It was, it was a little bit more than I can chew.
It's a monster.
It is. So, but it was a real estate play, because it's getting an ROI in a health club is not really fruitful.
Right.
But the real estate is where the game is.
Really?
So, yeah. So we had the back 6 acres. Other owners of this club tried to get the back 6 acres rezoned to build residential living, and they couldn't do it. And a main reason why is the way they approached the neighbors. They basically kind of drew it up, said, here's what we're trying to build. And it was usually a tower.
Yeah.
And they, neighborhood fought it. And they just kind of, we went to the neighborhood when we took it over. We put $2 million into the renovating the club, and said, hey, we're a health club first. We see value to the backyard. How do we work together?
Yeah.
5 years later, got it rezoned. We hope to get 88 townhouses. We got 54. And that's how I got into selling real estate. I've always invested into real estate, but selling real estate. So I went and got my license as this was transpiring.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I'll just kind of do things on the side. Sold my house, bought a house kind of thing, helped some friends. And then I negotiated. Now there were 54 townhouses. The guy gave me 6 because I was new. Mm-hmm. And I get it. I won the whole thing. I tried, but he wanted to give it to somebody else that had a lot more experience, and I understood that. But I sold my 6 out like really quick. Mm-hmm. And I had to be very careful, because I didn't want I have a staff of 80 people, and I didn't want to confuse them that I was leaving, because I had no intention at the time to do so.
Right.
Well, so when I sold those 6 out really quick, it made sense to everybody why I listed those in the back, because it was, part of our deal. Well, after that, everything kind of really took off. People started, because I'd been a business owner for a long time. I've been in the community a long time. I had people's trust. I had a strong SOI, sphere of influence, people that I know. And my business was able to flourish, my real estate business.
Yeah.
So eventually, I've worked my way into where I'm doing real estate full time, and left the operations of the club.
Right. Mm-hmm. You still have an interest in it, though.
I still have. I still help them out for sure.
Does your garage door sound like this? If it does, it's screaming for help. Call Incredible Doors, 931-348-DOOR. We're making garage doors in Murray and Williamson counties work better, sound better, and, well, spring better. We just make them incredible again. Incredible Doors in Spring Hill. For when your door's springs break, you need remote reconnections, opener installation, or just about anything to do with your garage door. Go to IncredibleDoors.com or call 931-348-DOOR. Follow us on Facebook for specials on maintenance visits, keypads, and other items. 931-348-DOOR. That's incredible. I mean, did you have anybody pouring into you to kind of mentor you and show you these things? Like, hey, you can do this. Because they don't teach this stuff.
They don't teach it. And I will tell you, I did not have a mentor at first when I took over the health club. I learned what not to do more than I did what to do.
Right.
So I made a lot of mistakes, a lot of costly mistakes as a health club owner. And then when we got partners, I did get a mentor from one of our partners, because he's bought and sold businesses.
Yeah.
And so I really leaned into him a lot, and which was great to have. And then when I started my real estate, I said, you know what? I'm getting a coach.
Yeah.
I need somebody that I don't need to learn how to do a great open house. I need someone that's going to teach me how to lead, how to run a business, and how to grow this. Yeah. And because ultimately I'd like to be able to sell it at some point, right? So got to create that exit strategy. So I found, ironically, a guy that I grew up with in Visalia, California. He's had this coaching business for a long time, and he's done very, very well. And I followed him. And so I called him up and said, hey, here's what I'm looking to do. He's like, I know. He's like, come with us. We'll take care of you. And it's been great. So it's Eisenhower Coaching and Training, ICT.
Yeah.
And his name is Brian Eisenhower. And so my coach actually leads the top team in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And so I'm basically doing what they're doing. You
strike me as one of these guys who is doing it, is earning the stripes. Like you said, has learned what not to do and what to do the hard way, and can probably do a lot of coaching yourself, speaking, things of that nature.
Sure.
In contrast to all the clowns that we see out there now
Yep.
who haven't done anything.
It's a joke.
Or very little. So do you do any of that? Please say yes.
I haven't started the coach. Now, here's the deal is I'm mentoring everyone on my team. I've got 11 agents on my team. So I mentor them. Right. I do hire our coaches to coach them once a week. And we have 2 separate groups depending on kind of what level they are.
Yeah.
But mentoring all the time. And I love that. It's just in my DNA. I've always loved taking care of people. I love watching other people's successes. Yeah. And I thrive off of that.
Why don't you, even just like documenting some of the mentoring that you're doing. Like a la Gary V, even though sometimes he addresses the cameras, but it's pretty much a fly on the wall.
No doubt.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Just getting somebody to kind of hang around and get some of the nuggets of wisdom. My business partner's the same way. I call him the reluctant social entrepreneur. And he's got such rich, good stuff. He's in his office right now consulting with a business.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. And it's like, somebody needs to video you doing this.
Yeah.
Because this is good stuff the world needs to hear. And there's so many people I know that just won't do it.
Yeah.
And it's like, everything out there, all the information that's out there is so damaging.
Oh, it is. And, it's funny because you look at, when I see a coach and they're in real estate and I've never heard of them.
Yeah.
I'll look to see what kind of business they do. A lot of times they don't have any business.
Right.
And they can blame it on, well, I'm coaching and blah, blah, blah. And I get that. Yeah. But typically they're younger, they're attractive. There's things that kind of come with it.
Right.
And it's just, they're just stealing information from somebody else and trying to charge you.
Right.
And it's
hucksters.
Yeah,
they call them.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess so.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think there's no doubt I have something to offer people. Yeah. I think that when that time comes, I definitely would love to get more into that.
Yeah.
But my goal is to get out of production for real estate. So meaning I'm not buying and selling homes, helping people buy. I'm just mentoring, overseeing. But we're going to be adding other ancillary services as well. So the next thing I'm going to be adding is a mortgage company.
Yeah.
And so I'm in the process of trying to figure out which direction I'm going with that. And then
that's a big business to get into, right?
It is. It can be. You have to be very careful and selective, and
right.
There's a lot of different directions you can actually get into a franchise.
Yeah.
And get a lot of back office support and things of that nature, and a lot of processes are already there for you.
Yeah.
So I'm experimenting on trying to decide what I'm going to do, and then from there, then it will go into insurance, and I'll go into title, and then next thing you know, you got a one-stop shop with us.
Yeah.
And my whole goal to this, by the way, is to stay RESPA compliant, but meaning that. But I really want my agents that I recruit and that are on our team to have multiple sources of income.
Right.
And so, as opposed to just trying to live off of just buying or selling a home, well, now they can be a part of maybe the home warranty, the insurance, the mortgage, depending on. And so we just have to make sure it's all compliant, which is not hard to do, but you have to do it the right way and do it super clean.
Well, I guess they got to be licensed in all those areas too.
In some aspects, yes, and others, no.
Really?
Yeah. And that's what I'm looking at. Like, you could potentially develop an LLC over here that they are a partner for.
Right.
And then that LLC is a partner of those businesses. Right. And therefore then they would get a return on that. So there's all kinds of ways.
Because it's like, I've toyed with the idea of being a lead funnel to some of my good friends who are realtors.
Yep.
But apparently in order to do that, you need to have your own license.
That's a referring agent.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, how do you get around that? The only way I would imagine is that, well, it's part of your quote marketing, and you have a marketing company that, well, hey, we're just generating leads for you. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I mean, I don't know if that violates anything, or why? Why would it be? Why do you got to be a licensed agent? Just
to be able to give. So I think there's a max that we're allowed to give you,
which I guess is my lack of information is probably why you need to be licensed. But
well, the thing is that honestly, so what you do is you would get your license if you're a super connector like that.
Yeah.
Then you get your license and you just stay in referral status.
Right.
And you have to hang your license somewhere, and then you just get 20% or whatever their commission is, something like that, right? And you're just kind of constantly feeding, and you get income based on, and let everyone else do the work.
Right.
And we do that. Like I just got a call today from an amazing agent who has a celebrity client in Atlanta. Well, they have a place here, and they want to look into Nashville. So she called. I'm going to give her a referral.
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah. So from my perception here, John, is that I'm sure it's not the case, but it's like all these things just seemingly have fallen into your lap. And I'm sure that's not the case, but that's how I'm kind of seeing it. That you're just like, man, you just keep on everywhere you turn, you're stepping in something good.
I've stepped in a lot of bad stuff too. Yep.
It's like I look at my life and I'm like, why can't I, attract money into my life? I've never been good at that, and I know maybe it's a mindset thing. I don't know, but getting into even the television show, how did that come about?
So it's kind of fun. So, I do have a good following on Instagram.
Yes.
And so, they reached out to me and said, hey, we're looking for people in your area. And I'm not the only one in town that does it, but,
right.
And so I had a good conversation with them, and ended up being to where it made sense for me to be on their show.
Yeah.
And so I got 6 episodes with them. I've filmed 3. So I've got 3 more to go, and then we'll see if I get renewed. But I will tell you, the first one has done very well. The viewership through all of the different channels have been over like 34 million views.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, now I wish that was on my YouTube. It's not.
Right.
No one, but it's on other things. They give me a report every month, and so
the cross branding and pollination that comes with it is beneficial.
It really is, and it's led into other opportunities too.
I bet.
Got it. I'm getting recruited for a couple different other potential shows that will be happening, and we'll see if that works out.
Just stepping into it everywhere, man.
Why not? Why not? As the thing is, I'm 53, and
so young.
I was trying for this stuff when I was younger, right?
Right.
And now it's just sort of
just happening.
It's just happening.
And that's always felt about my life. I'm not that I have anything to complain about. It's funny, with one of the previous podcast episodes I did with a woman named Pauline Joseph, we were talking about how 2024, and I think 2023 as well, let's just say everything past 2021 and 2020, it's been rough for people.
Yeah.
People are really kind of struggling out there. I think it's caught up with us in the past year. I mean, we're running 3 different businesses out of this facility. One's a lighting business, one's a garage door business, and of course the podcasting business that we do out of my room, which is my superpower.
Yep.
But it's been a rough year.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, there's so much contrary information and happy talk about the opposite of that. And I just had a conversation yesterday with a friend of mine who I said, more people need to be acknowledging the hardships right now.
Totally.
And it's like, I look at my life and I'm like, well, this is just a valley. You got to get to the next ascension to the mountaintop.
Without a doubt.
But it takes a lifetime of going through the valleys and mountaintops to realize that.
Yeah. But the thing is that, it's a struggle getting to the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to stay there. It's harder to stay there.
It's understanding that you're not going to stay there.
No, exactly. And you have to be wise in regards to, on how to pivot. Like that's the thing about my life. I've been able to pivot throughout my professions, and even the health club itself. We started off as a gym, and then we turned it into where it was, then we had like gymnastics and dance and private school for athletes and NFL combine training. And I mean, it just all kinds of things.
Do you do this? Yes. Yes.
Pretty much. We were everything under one roof, and so
do we do that? No. Yes, we do it. We'll figure it out.
That's pretty much the truth. And so now now that I'm full time in real estate and just figuring out how to make this something very valuable for others to be a part of. In regards to other agents to be a part of the team, because if you try and live off of, because I do offer lead generation, but if you try and live off of someone else's leads, you're not going to make it in this industry. You have to really work on the people your SOI, and so it's important that you have an understanding on how to do it.
Yeah,
and we have a lot of automations and things. I love automation. I love that kind of stuff that help. That basically it looks like you're working when you're not.
Right.
And so we help our agents be able to kind of maximize.
You know how many text messages I get?
Oh, I know.
From people, hey, are you still interested in selling your prop? Was I ever?
I know. I get those too. And I'm like, I'm a real estate agent. Why are you reaching out to me?
Right.
Yeah.
But it's like, does this work for you? I mean, how is this like the Valpak version of lead generation?
Right.
And I get these, sometimes I'll get a phone call. Hey, someone will leave a mailer in there.
Yeah.
Hey, your house, so-and-so sold their house in the neighborhood. Are you interested in something? No, dude, first and foremost, no. Secondly, and it's like you got to think about where people are who have been established in this community as long as we have. We've been in the same house since 2005.
Wow.
Where are we going to go?
Yeah.
It's like one of the products that I kind of endorse from time to time is a all-in-one loan. And it's like, that was the best thing we could do because now we could take advantage of the equity in our house to do stuff.
That's the thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And, for a mortgage company, that's a great product to have.
Yeah.
But as a real estate agent, especially in the last, with the onboarding of so many people that started being, they wanted to become realtors.
They're fading off now.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
It has to be.
They are.
Yeah.
Only the strong survive. Yeah. It is. Well, it is. After you get through helping out your friends, it's work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I will tell you, a big part is people like yourself that like you said, using the equity, the money's sitting there. How do we make it work for you again?
Right.
Right. And so, to me, when I have conversations with someone wants a valuation on their home, which I think is important, you should always know the current value of your home. If it's not the biggest investment, it's the most important investment that you have.
Right.
So to know where it stands and to see how much equity you have, and maybe you start taking that equity and you start investing in real estate and small little rentals or something, and that is a really great place to start.
Yeah,
that's what I did, and I was able to kind of do some really great stuff with real estate and investing in real estate.
And a lot of people I don't think are educated in that.
Right.
Are you seeing a lot of that kind of a movement in the community in Nashville and Middle Tennessee that, where am I going to go? Because it'll be a lateral move. And if anything, I might get a nicer house, but, for how much more a month? You know what I mean?
Well, here's the thing is our area is always going to appreciate a little bit faster than others, just because there's so much moving here.
Yeah,
right.
True.
And so we're in a really good spot. We're not, so if you do decide to move, you're going to get that appreciation that other parts of the country are not. So that's a big thing. But you're also, if you stay put, you're going to continue to get the appreciation. But how do we maximize that? So it is educational. So when you start talking to people and they want to stay put, but when you start telling them, hey, well, let's make your money work for you in this kind of way, don't go spend it on a car. Yeah. Go spend it on a rental, and then let that rental income pay for your car.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So put your money on an appreciating asset, not a depreciation. Yeah. So like a depreciating asset, such as a car, right? Yeah. So because some people will just borrow, that's where they'll get their car loan.
And that's the thing is that where they have that understanding, like I get all that.
Yep.
It's the actual execution that a lot of people I think get. Maybe that's what separates the people that don't from that do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I'm not one of those people that have have in some ways.
Yeah.
I've got investments here and there. We've got, a business property that we're developing down here 10 minutes away.
Okay.
But as far as putting the equity in the house into something else, it's again, where do you buy the property that's not overblown in price and justifying the rent income?
Well, there definitely has to be a rental analysis and all that too that comes with it, and it's a little more challenging with the rates being high. But the moment that the rates drop, our housing is probably going to increase up to 15%.
Yeah.
So it's a great time to be a buyer because you can get a lot of. You can do what are called buy downs. So you can get the seller to buy down your rate, in the negotiation. So that's something that I'm really good at, and my team is really good at, is figuring out a way to drop your rate so you don't pay today's rates, but you get today's prices.
Yeah.
So because the prices will go up, the rate will at some point drop. Then you can refinance then. So get in, buy it as cheap as you can, ride the wave, and know that, hey, if you can break even on your rent right now, but play with the appreciation, let the appreciation do what it's going to do. It's a long-term play. And then from there, then you take, then when the rates drop, then you refinance it. And now you've got even more cash flow and more equity.
That's great for people like me that were able to get in at a certain time in a certain generation. Jon Sexton, what do we do about the people that are first-time home buyers that can't afford anything now?
Well, that's
an interesting issue.
Okay, all right. So
being that you're the guy that pivots and steps in gold every single time.
No, I don't.
What's the next thing going to be?
So to me, first-time home buyers are fun. Yeah. I really that's a great place to be.
Yeah.
So if you're a first home buyer, I want to tell you there's a program called 2-1 or 3-2-1 buy down. Okay, and I use this all the time. I prefer a 3-2-1 buy down. But what that means is if the rate is 6.5% and we're in a 3-2-1 buy down, means year one you're paying, so it's 6.5, you're paying 3.5% interest on year one. Then the 2 is the 4.5%, then 5.5, and then year 4 is when you started at 6.5, right? That's going to save you, and so that's going to save you hundreds and hundreds. I'm talking almost like I did that on my personal home. I'm saving over $2,000 a month for my first year.
Wow.
Okay. Now, so here's the thing: about every $10,000 that you borrow is roughly, it's probably a little bit. We'll call it $75.
Right.
Okay. So say there's a house that's $400,000. Okay. And instead of offering $380,000, right? I say give them close to full price, but have them pay $20,000 towards your buy down. That will save you, because you're saving $150 a month on that on that $20,000, right? Or they pay that $20,000 down, and say it saves you $450 a month,
right,
for the first year, and then the second year it saves you $250 a month, whatever. So you're saving in the grand scheme of things. And here's what's great about a buy down. So that $20,000 that you were given at closing credit goes to the mortgage company, but it sits in, let's call it an escrow account.
Right.
And every month that money gets withdrawn to buy down that rate.
Right.
If you refinance within that time frame, say it's a 2-1 buy down, so within the first 2 years, whatever money is left in that escrow account, guess what? You get that.
Right.
So it's a win. It's a total win. So how do we get people, first time home buyers? We take that approach. We try and get them a 2-1 or 3-2-1 buy down, ease the pain on the first couple years, give them a chance to grow into it, get them the equity, and then that 2 years goes. You kind of pass the capital gain mark. Now if you decide to sell and move up, or decide to sell or whatever, but we got to get you out of paying rent, because you're paying 100% interest if you're renting.
It's almost like from a seller's perspective, leasing a car. At some point, it's a reason for being sticky and in the buyer's lives for the next 3 years. Because hey, you're new at this. Understand that yes, every year your payment's going to go up, but at the end of that, let's revisit. Don't do anything like this. Let's revisit every 6 months to make sure you're okay. Almost like a financial management advisor.
Pretty much.
I would imagine for somebody in the real estate business, because a lot of realtors will sell a house and you'll never hear from them again.
Right.
And it's the worst thing. It's what are you doing?
Right.
This is part of your book of business. Understandably, yes, you need to make money in the near term. It's like, but the people like in the car business when I was there, your success came from your customers remembering you and having it's like I would always have a reason for calling, a nonlinear follow-up, if you will, of saying, hey, you had the car 3 years. I got something new are you interested in looking? Yep. Your lease is coming up soon. I got something, what are you thinking? Where are you now?
Yeah.
By the way, how is everyone?
Yeah.
How's so-and-so? Blah, 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 all that stuff. This is a good reason to stay sticky in somebody's life.
Without a doubt. And that's part of the whole process. And that's part of what we call the SOI, sphere of influence, right? Those are your clients, your former clients, your friends' friends. If you know someone's name and they know your name, they're in your SOI.
Right.
But when you have a client, you got to stay in front of them. Client appreciation, all of it's important.
Yeah. But a lot of realtors don't understand that.
No,
a lot of car salespeople don't understand that.
A lot of just in any industry.
Yeah.
It's the same way.
The rock stars are going to, it's funny, you mentioned that, and circling back around to what we started, if you can't tell, I love talking about music. Like Rich, when he came to town, he knew that it was his attitude, of course, his skill level, his capabilities and things of that nature. But the way he conducted himself was going to give him longevity in his career.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He says, even understanding that if you treat the receptionist a certain way.
Without a doubt.
Man. Because he says that person, he said this to me years ago. He says, you got to realize that person does not want to stay where they are.
Mm-hmm.
They want to move up too.
Yeah.
So if all of a sudden they're in a position of a second engineer, or first engineer, then a producer, then, all these types of things, and they remember you, that's only good for you.
No.
Nobody thinks about that.
Yeah. That's great. That's a great point. It's just really just being a good person.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
There's helping people.
Yeah. I mean, that's just something I think is important, that we all should just really, like you said, just help each other out. Kind of always.
I'm wondering if the RV business is going to have a boom, because a lot of people, whether or not they could even afford to get into a house using the 3-2-1 method or something like that, I think that there's a rental economy that's emerging. And I think it's going to grow.
Yeah.
There's a reason why all these companies came out of the woodwork in 08 and 09 and 10, because all the houses were, and the first time in history, we were able to buy them for pennies on the dollar.
Right.
Right. I should have done that.
Hey, the best time to buy anything was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's always going to be, especially real estate.
Yeah.
That will always be a saying.
Yeah.
Because, 5 years later, you've got equity.
But do you think that maybe even getting into the RV park game might be the next thing? Well, I've been hearing a lot about that.
Well, it's been a thing. And I know guys that have talked about it and that have done it, and that are, it can be very fruitful.
Yeah.
It's not just buying an empty lot. I mean, there's a lot of preparation that has to go into it. You got to have all the pads, you got to have all the electricity, you have to have Wi-Fi. I mean, all these things. It's not like, when we were kids, just driving in a Winnebago and just showing up, and then you've got an antenna for a TV. I mean, you got to have all the amenities there for them as well. So it's to have a successful one. That's
the reason why we got rid of ours. We really enjoyed camping, but after a while, when COVID happened, everybody got into camping. Mm-hmm. The quality of the RVs went down because they were overproducing them.
Yep.
And then you couldn't get a spot, and all of a sudden, the price to get one wasn't beneficial anymore.
Right.
Yep.
I know. I've had some clients that actually bought a bunch of property around a lake.
Yes.
And they put pads on there, but it ended up being more of a hassle for them than anything. So
really?
Yeah, they did. They did. So they ended up getting rid of it. It wasn't
kidding.
Yeah. You're just dealing with, someone new all the time. All these personalities are constantly calling. I mean, they didn't have a management company run it for them.
Right.
Which I'm sure maybe looking back, maybe they would have.
Yeah.
But there's a whole booking thing. It's like owning a short-term rental, Airbnb.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
It is.
It's a lot of work, and
wait, but it's not just passive income. You just buy it and set it.
Now you can do that, and you can hire companies to do that, but they take a lot of money.
Yeah.
They take a lot of money. But I will tell you, if you're a W-2 employee and you own a short-term rental, that tax write-off is absurd. You could almost write off your entire W-2 taxes by running your own Airbnb.
Yeah.
It's talk to a tax strategist about it, but I'm telling you, it's a big deal. So there's the thing called cost segregation, where you actually go in, you have somebody go in and they evaluate everything, the HVAC, the refrigerator, and then you get to depreciate that aggressively. So it's kind of a 5-year play, and then you move on. Yeah. But there's a whole tax strategy for that, and so people will buy short-term rentals specifically for that. They don't care if they cash flow or not.
Yeah.
They're getting basically their W-2 income taxes written off.
Well, being that this has been the speculation hour, or at least the last half hour, moving forward, you're talking about write-offs and things of that nature. Now with a new administration coming in, some of the most noise I've ever seen be created in decades has been about removing the IRS. Oh, how we would all love to see all this deductions and things of that nature would just go away.
Yeah.
If we got rid of the income tax.
Mm-hmm.
You think that's a possibility? Let's speculate on that.
Hell, I don't know. To be honest with you, I'm not going down that. I have no idea.
Yeah. But I mean, it's kind of, I see it more and more like as trending topics. I'm like, IRS defund and all this. I'm like, oh, dude, this would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Yes, please.
In theory, probably. But, I'm sure that I just don't know how that would even happen. I don't know.
It's like, what do you replace it with? And I'm like, I don't know, a consumption tax, the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Why you're taxing production and income.
Yeah.
And property. It's the most dastardly tax. It came up actually again with the person who was on a couple of episodes ago. And it comes up from time to time about the property tax just being, you don't own anything. Mm-hmm. You own nothing as long as there are property taxes in place.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually, when I was personal training, one of my very first clients was one of the wealthiest men in town. And his name was Noah Liff. Mm-hmm. And I think it's the Noah Liff Opera Center but he was very, just a great man. And he owned a bunch of scrap yards. And he would tell me, always around tax season, that, no one likes to pay taxes. Yeah. But honestly, if this is what I have to pay to live in this amazing country, I'm happy to do it.
I'm not saying that. Yeah. I'm not opposed to paying taxes.
Sure.
And that's what a lot of people take me up on whenever I put these pieces of content out. Well, this is what pays for your fire. Dude, I get all that. Yeah. I'm not saying that we don't need to fund. I said, but we're basically dealing with an agency that tells you, well, hey, tell us how much you made and speculate in terms of how much you owe us. And if you get it wrong, you could be held up for penalties and interest. And if you don't pay us, pay us on our clock, we could throw you in jail. Mm-hmm. Okay, but yet if they owe you money, we're taking our time.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah,
no doubt.
And it's like, where do we go wrong with this?
I know. They can freeze your whole account, all that stuff. Yeah. Yep.
That's completely overbearing.
Yeah, no doubt. And I want to go back to a hardship story because I don't know, it just kind of remind me of when you're saying that what they can do.
Yeah.
So when I had the health club, in 2008, I had a article written on me on the Nashville Business Journal that I had the largest SBA loan in 2008.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, that's not a good thing.
Right.
I was all happy they're going to come interview me, and I just didn't realize that. I'm like, gosh, I kind of look like a fool, maybe. I don't know, but. Anyway, so, in 2010, Nashville got flooded, right? And it was really, really tough time. And my club was in Bellevue in the west part of town. So that was one of the hardest hit areas.
Right.
And so our members did not, a lot of them they couldn't afford to come. And I would just tell them, look, let's just put everything on pause.
Right.
I'm not going to charge you. You just come in when you're ready.
Yeah.
I knew as a business owner, I was going to get my butt handed to me financially. I ended up not taking a paycheck for 6 months. Everyone else got paid, but I did not. I did not take one. And I had to, and I would call the bank and try and work something out. And it's SBA loan, so it gets pretty tight.
Yeah.
And I, in that time, the SBA came after me and really wanted to, and I was constantly in communication.
Yeah.
Right. And somewhere along the line, a letter was lost. Mm-hmm. It was a letter that was lost, and it was a 90
gotcha moment.
Well, it was a 90-day sort of kind of a letter that says, hey, you're delinquent and blah blah blah. But yet I've been talking to them. I've been making, kind of really interest only payments. Just I'm trying to honor that, trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
During this time, and they. But somewhere I lost that letter never got to me. And I end up having, they end up throwing my case into the Department of Treasury. And when that's the black hole.
Yeah.
It took me 4 years to get out of that, and because they were basically kind of, I had to basically call my congressional right to get it. And I had to fight. I tried to hire attorneys. No one could do anything for me. It just took me getting on the phone, calling and calling and calling. I eventually got it done, eventually settled, got it all taken care of. But it was a very stressful 4 years of trying to get it right.
Yeah.
On a mistake that I could have easily handled early on. I just had no idea what was happening.
Right.
And then all of a sudden I'm getting penalized on something that was, a miscommunication, if you will. So ended up working out, but it was a tough play. So everything worked out. Club stayed open. Everything was good, but we had. But now in that 6 months too, I almost lost my house. There's all kinds of things that I went through that people didn't realize I was going through, and but you persevere and you learn from it and you grow from it.
Yeah.
And so whatever it is you're going through, and I know we've got a lot of listeners out there that are going through things.
Yeah.
Whether it be personal, whether it be professional, whatever it is, stop, take a breath. Thank God that you are going through this, because this is a time for you to learn. And so be grateful for the time on lows, because it'll make your highs that much higher. Yeah. And keep the faith and believe in yourself. That's the big thing that I always never lost faith on that. I knew I would overcome. I've been broke. I've been not broke. Mm-hmm. I've been broke and I've been not broke. And so those valleys you talked about, it happens to everybody.
It does.
It happens to everybody.
Totally.
And so, there's been a lot of great talk here, but I kind of wanted to pull it back and say just real talk. And there's been some really trying moments, but I never let it get me dark.
Yeah.
And because I always, my relationship, I have a very good vertical relationship with God, mm-hmm. and I want to have, and I just believe in myself. So
it's one of those things that, and I'll add to that when you are going through the valleys, there are those people that will only remember the valleys. They're just some people that are programmed to remember the bad things. Mm-hmm. And then you have to be cognizant of when the good times are happening, that it's a good time.
Yeah.
That is a season of fruitfulness.
Exactly.
Understand that, hey, the ascension up to the peak of the mountain is followed by the descension. And you got to understand that it's life, how it breathes.
It is. Mm-hmm.
And just understanding that. Mm-hmm. Why do you have your own podcast? Please say yes.
Yes, I do.
Good.
I do. Yeah. It's called, and so my team's name is Nashville Home. Okay. And we're based out of Benchmark, but I say that because Nashville Home, the podcast is called Calling Nashville Home, and it's really geared towards people that are relocating to Nashville. And so we take them through different other people's experiences, what they love, why they moved here, and give them an opportunity to kind of talk about what to share their story, and maybe that helps someone else understand kind of what they want, where they want to be. And so that's what we focus on. I
would imagine that a lot of your audience must be the people that are putting their toe in the water to move here.
Yep.
From out of state.
Yeah.
California's moving here. The entire state has moved here.
Yep. California, you got a lot of Chicago, you got a lot of kind of New York, New Jersey.
Yeah.
But we,
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Although I'm by way of Vegas, and it was 20 years ago, so I'm like a Nashville hipster.
There you go.
I moved here before it was cool.
Me too. Yeah. That's why I moved here in '96. When I moved here, it felt like Nashville felt a lot like what Sacramento was at that time, just a big town.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's just growing up, and it's been fun to grow up with the town, with Nashville. I love it. But yeah, but in regards to relocation, plus there's a lot, In-N-Out Burger's coming here.
Yeah.
Oracle's moving their entire headquarters here.
Isn't that crazy?
I mean, there's so many things that are happening, and people are moving here. So
I'm waiting for Tesla to move here.
No kidding.
Elon will expand out here as well.
He might.
But I mean, it's funny, getting back to the people like first-time home buyers, people that aspire to buy our home. I've never really told this story, actually. When we lived in Connecticut, my wife and I was starting out in radio. We were very low-paying positions. There was no hope of us owning a home in Connecticut. Mm-hmm. Everything was so massively overpriced. And then we had an opportunity to move to Vegas, and that was like oh no, let's pull back the curtain. You still have a chance. You could actually buy a pretty nice house, and we did.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where it was like a huge bump in what we were paying in rent, but it was like, it's still worth it, but holy crap, that's a lot of extra money to come up with. But it forced me to pivot and think entrepreneurially.
Yes.
And it got me in that mode of thinking. And it's like, if we didn't buy that house then, it wouldn't have set up to where we are now.
That's exactly right.
My point being is that anybody out there that's listening that's like hopeless, it may take you moving out of the area. It may take finding what, for some reason, we moved to Vegas and 6,000 people a month were moving in.
Yep.
It was just a gravitational pull of the city. After we sold the house and moved out, the 2008 crash happened. It was one of the most impacted cities in America that
Sure was.
felt the pressure of that. We moved here, which now turned into another gravitational pull. It's like, so basically just keep an eye on where we're going to move and go there because it seems to follow us. But all kidding aside, what's that place going to be for you? If anything that you look at in your life, where can you go? Whether it's the Southwest, whether it's Alabama, I think Alabama is poised for a renaissance, in my opinion.
I don't disagree. There's some great areas in Alabama.
Yeah, Alabama, Mississippi. I think it's going to be a lot more attractive to people that are they want rural living, and there's a ton of that there.
There is.
Texas, I think, has gotten a little bit overpriced, but even going outside of the country, I hear El Salvador is just blowing up. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But anyway, man, how can people find and follow you?
Yeah, you bet. So my Instagram is Jon.Sexton, Sexton.
We'll put all that in the information.
Okay,
as well.
great. All right. And then I've got Nashville Home Agents, AGENTS.com. That's our website for our team. And Calling Nashville Home is our podcast, and you can find that anywhere you can find this podcast.
How are your numbers on that?
Could be better. It's a newer podcast. Yeah. And then also I have my YouTube. And if you want to watch my episodes on my show, I post them there. And it's the same thing as my Instagram, jon.sexton.
Nice. Well, man, thanks for being on. It's been a massive pleasure, long time coming.
Yep.
And thank you for keeping up with me to make sure that we get it on the books and have it follow through.
Awesome.
If you're listening, make sure to find, follow, subscribe, rate. Well, find. That's a weird thing. You've already found us. MMTBP.com. All the links are right there where you can pick your poison in terms of watching or listening and what platform you want to listen on. And of course, if you want to be a part of the show, there's a link there. You can apply, fill out an application, and we'll review it and get back to you. So, Jon, man, what a great conversation. Let's keep in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you.